The breaking point. The Galactic Consortium's central chamber gleamed with artificial light, designed to accommodate the visual spectrum of over 40 different species. Hovering translation modules buzzed softly throughout the vast dome, ensuring that every grunt, click, or pheromone burst was properly interpreted across biological divides. At the center of it all sat 5 humans, seemingly unremarkable compared to the tentacled, multi-limbed, or energy-based beings surrounding them. Commander Elena Reyes, chief negotiator for the United Earth Alliance, maintained perfect posture as she had for the past 6 hours. Her dark hair was pulled tightly back, and her expression revealed nothing as Ambassador Vron of the Kel-Theri Dominion continued his lengthy dissertation on proper integration protocols. And so we once again emphasize that human military vessels must submit to our standardized weapons configuration. The consortium has maintained peace for over 9 millennia through unified compliance. Your continued resistance is both puzzling and concerning, the ambassador concluded, his 4 eye stalks swiveling to focus directly on Reyes. The human delegation exchanged no glances. They didn't need to. After 3 years of these negotiations, they operated with a synchronicity born of shared frustration. Ambassador Vron, Reyes began, her voice calm and measured. As we have explained in our previous 47 official statements, Earth's defensive capabilities are non-negotiable. We welcome commerce, cultural exchange, and cooperative scientific endeavors, but we will not dismantle our military structure. The ambassador's skin rippled in what humans had learned to interpret as exasperation. Commander Reyes, every species must compromise to join the galactic community. The Jaxians surrendered their biological weaponry. The Pellerin abandoned their quantum disruptors. Even the warlike Krethva accepted weapons limitations. And yet, interjected Dr. Marcus Chen, the human technological advisor, none of those species were required to completely redefine their governance structure or surrender their foundational defense principles. A ripple of uncomfortable color waves passed through several of the gelatinous species present. The consortium representatives were unused to direct confrontation during negotiations. For them, the process was ritual. Newcomers always capitulated eventually. Perhaps, chittered Ambassador Zilk of the Treshar Collective, mandibles clicking rapidly, the humans require another demonstration of our technological superiority. They may not fully comprehend the protection we offer. Commander Reyes rose slowly to her feet. The chamber, which had been filled with the subtle sounds of environmental support systems and translators, fell silent. The human delegation understands perfectly, she said, and we have reached a decision. The other 4 human representatives stood in perfect unison behind her. For 3 standard years, we have negotiated in good faith. We have offered cultural exchanges, trade agreements, and technological collaboration. We have been willing to adapt to consortium protocols that do not compromise our core values. But it has become clear that the consortium is not interested in true cooperation, only assimilation. Ambassador Vron's eye stalks twitched nervously. Commander, surely we can. The United Earth Alliance hereby withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Consortium. Reyes continued, her voice echoing through the chamber. We will be sealing our borders and recalling all human personnel from consortium space within 72 hours. The chamber erupted into chaos. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the cacophony of alarmed communications. Several species released stress pheromones so potent that environmental systems triggered emergency ventilation protocols. This is unprecedented, thundered the Grand Arbiter, the ancient Morellian who had overseen galactic diplomacy for 3 centuries. No species has ever withdrawn from negotiations. Then perhaps, offered Lieutenant Sarah Okafor, the human security specialist, that's precisely the problem with your diplomatic approach. The human delegation moved as one toward the exit, ignoring the pleas and threats erupting around them. As they reached the massive doorway, Ambassador Zilk scuttled forward frantically. You cannot simply leave. There are protocols, transitional arrangements, the economic implications alone. Commander Reyes turned back one final time. You never understood us, Ambassador. When humans make a threat, it's not a negotiation tactic. When we walk away, we're not bluffing. You've had 3 years to learn that lesson. She nodded to her team. We're done here. The doors sealed behind them with a resounding thud that seemed to reverberate throughout the known galaxy. Within hours, panic spread across 17 major trading hubs. The consortium's unified communication network blazed with emergency transmissions as markets began to plummet. Human goods, particularly their uniquely efficient medical nanites and entertainment data streams, had become integral to numerous economies. Supply chains froze in anticipation of human border closures. In the private chamber of the Grand Arbiter, an emergency council convened. Representatives from the 12 most powerful consortium species huddled together, their usual hierarchical seating arrangement abandoned in favor of a tight circle. This is a temporary tantrum, insisted Ambassador Vron. They seek leverage. No species can survive in isolation from the consortium. The Arbiter's ancient face settled into deep furrows. You are mistaken, Ambassador. The humans are not like us. I have studied their history extensively. When threatened, they do not concede. They unite. When pressured, they do not yield. They innovate. But they are primitive, protested a Jaxian representative. Their faster-than-light technology is barely 3 centuries old. They still wage internal conflicts. And perhaps, offered a quiet voice from the doorway, that is precisely why you should fear them. All heads turned to see High Consul Tara O'Keefe, the sole human diplomat who had remained behind. She walked slowly into the chamber, uninvited, a breach of protocol so severe that several representatives instinctively activated personal defense fields. High Consul, the Arbiter acknowledged wearily. You were not summoned to this council. I didn't wait for an invitation, she replied simply. Just as we didn't wait for your permission to develop our own approach to interstellar civilization. Your delegation's action is irrational, hissed Ambassador Zilk. You cannot survive without consortium trade routes. Tara smiled. It was not a comforting expression to most of the species present. We survived for tens of thousands of years alone on our planet. We endured world wars, climate collapse, and resource depletion. We clawed our way to the stars without any guidance. What makes you think isolation would destroy us now? You would sacrifice prosperity for pride, stated the Morellian Arbiter. No, Tara corrected. We sacrifice temporary convenience for long-term sovereignty. But more importantly, we're showing you something the consortium seems to have forgotten in its 9,000 years of existence. And what is that? Asked the Arbiter. That true cooperation cannot exist without respect for differences. You don't want partners, you want subjects. And humans will never, ever accept that position. The chamber fell silent as the representatives processed her words. Market updates continued to flash across their personal interfaces. 3 major trading conglomerates had already declared insolvency. The Treshar shipbuilding guilds reported mass cancellations. The Pellerin Energy Exchange had suspended all transactions to prevent complete collapse. What would it take? The Arbiter finally asked, his voice showing age for the first time. What would bring the human delegation back? Tara O'Keefe looked around the chamber slowly, meeting each alien gaze. Recognition of our right to remain uniquely human, a seat at the table as equals, not as students, and the understanding that forcing everyone to be the same isn't harmony, it's stagnation. She turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. You have 48 hours before our borders close completely. I suggest you decide whether 9 millennia of doing things your way is worth the collapse of everything you've built. As she departed, the Arbiter's ancient eyes followed her, seeing not just one human but the entire species, adaptable, unpredictable, and absolutely willing to burn bridges to forge their own path. May the stars help us all, he murmured. They actually mean it. The Reckoning. Captain Jared Rivera stood on the observation deck of the UES Defiance, watching as the ship's defense systems automatically tracked the 14 consortium vessels hovering just beyond weapons range. The enormous viewing window showed the shimmering boundary of human space, not a physical barrier, but a line of sophisticated sensor buoys that marked where consortium authority ended and human sovereignty began. "Any change, Lieutenant?" he asked without turning. Lieutenant Devi Sharma consulted her neural interface. "No, sir. They're maintaining formation. All weapons systems dormant, but powered. They're making a point." "As are we," Rivera noted, gesturing toward the fleet of human vessels arranged in a precise defensive formation. 3 weeks had passed since humanity had withdrawn from negotiations. The economic shockwaves continued to ripple across the galaxy. 6 minor species had declared bankruptcy and surrendered their autonomous governance to consortium protectorship. "Sir," Lieutenant Sharma reported suddenly, "we're receiving a direct communication request from the consortium flagship." Rivera nodded. "Put it through." The air shimmered as a holographic projection formed. Ambassador Vron appeared, his usually immaculate ceremonial garments looking somewhat disheveled. The 4 eye stalks showed signs of stress, the upper pair drooping slightly. "Captain Rivera," the ambassador began formally, "the Grand Conclave requests safe passage for a diplomatic envoy to Earth. We wish to present new terms for human integration into the galactic community." Rivera maintained a neutral expression. "The borders remain sealed, Ambassador. Any diplomatic communications can be transmitted directly to Earth Command." "Captain, please." The ambassador's voice dropped its formal tone, becoming almost pleading. "The Conclave has authorized me to inform you that we are prepared to make unprecedented concessions." Rivera raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. "The situation has become untenable," Vron continued. 3 of our core trading systems have collapsed. The Krethva are making territorial claims in the power vacuum. 2 manufacturing guilds have dissolved entirely. We need—" He paused, seeming to struggle with the word. "We need humans back in the galactic economy." "I'll relay your request to command," Rivera said evenly. "But I should warn you, Ambassador, if this is another attempt to pressure us into conformity, you're wasting your time and what little economic stability you have left." The ambassador's skin paled slightly. "We are learning, Captain. Slowly, perhaps, but we are learning." The communication ended, leaving Rivera staring out at the consortium vessels. They seemed less threatening now, somehow, more like suppliants than enforcers. "They're scared," Sharma observed quietly. "They should be," Rivera replied. "Not of our weapons, but of the fact that we don't need them as much as they've come to need us." The Grand Hall of Earth Command in Geneva hummed with tension. Unlike the ostentatious chambers of the consortium, this was a functional space, designed for decisions, not ceremony. At the center table sat the 7 members of the Human Strategic Council, facing the consortium delegation across a simple expanse of synthwood. Commander Elena Reyes, now elevated to Chief Diplomatic Strategist, observed the consortium representatives with clinical detachment. They looked diminished somehow, their usual pomp and circumstance stripped away by the reality of their situation. The Grand Arbiter himself had come, along with representatives from the 5 most powerful consortium species. They had arrived not in their usual diplomatic vessels, but in a plain transport ship, without ceremony or fanfare. "We thank you for receiving us," the Arbiter began, his ancient voice carrying a weight of humility never before heard from consortium leadership. "Recent events have prompted a revaluation of our approach to interspecies relations." "We're listening," said Admiral Chen, the head of Earth Command, his expression revealing nothing. The Arbiter gestured, and a detailed holographic projection appeared above the table, a complete restructuring of the consortium's governance system. "We propose a new framework," he explained, "one that preserves the unique cultural, military, and technological sovereignty of each member species, while still providing the benefits of galactic cooperation." Reyes leaned forward slightly, studying the proposal. "This would require dismantling power structures that have existed for millennia." "Yes," the Arbiter acknowledged simply. "Sometimes survival requires evolution." The human representatives exchanged brief glances. This was unprecedented. The mighty consortium, which had ruled the known galaxy for 9,000 years, was proposing to fundamentally reinvent itself rather than risk continued human isolation. And what guarantees do we have that these changes would be implemented? Asked Security Director Okafor, her voice sharp with skepticism. Ambassador Vron stepped forward. We have brought this. He placed a small crystalline cube on the table. The consortium's complete technological database, including military applications, scientific research, and developmental histories of all member species. Consider it both a gesture of trust and an acknowledgement of equality. The room fell silent. The database was the consortium's most closely guarded asset, the accumulated knowledge of dozens of species across thousands of years. Admiral Chen studied the cube but didn't touch it. Why this reversal? Ambassador, 3 weeks ago, you demanded our compliance. Now you offer us your most valuable secrets. The Arbiter answered instead, his ancient eyes reflecting the weight of recent revelation. Because you have shown us something we had forgotten. True strength lies not in forcing others to become like you, but in harnessing the power of diversity. Humanity's refusal to be assimilated has caused pain, yes, but it has also awakened us to a stagnation we didn't recognize. He gestured toward the holographic proposal still rotating above the table. This is not surrender, Admiral. It is evolution. The consortium has survived for 9 millennia by absorbing others. Perhaps it will thrive for 10 more by learning from them instead. Ray studied the alien faces before her. And if we refuse, if we decide our independence serves us better, then the galaxy as we know it may well collapse, the Arbiter said simply. And in the chaos that follows, many will suffer. Not just the consortium, but countless innocent beings caught in systems too interconnected to fail gracefully. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. We'll need time to review this proposal thoroughly. But I will say this, what you're offering looks more like partnership than the subservience you demanded before. The Arbiter bowed his head slightly. We have learned, Admiral, that the galaxy is large enough for many approaches to civilization. Humanity's greatest gift to us may be the reminder that uniformity breeds weakness, not strength. 3 days, Chen said firmly. We'll have our answer in 3 days. As the consortium delegation withdrew, Commander Reyes remained at the table, studying the crystalline database. Within it lay the accumulated wisdom of a galactic civilization, freely given not because of human military might, but because of their willingness to stand alone. Do you think they've genuinely changed? Asked Director Okafor, joining her at the table. Reyes considered the question carefully. I think they've genuinely realized that they must change. Whether they can follow through remains to be seen. She picked up the database cube, feeling its weight. But this is a start. And if they backslide once the crisis passes, then we walk away again, Reyes said simply. That's the one thing they now understand about humans. Our threats aren't negotiation tactics. Our principles aren't flexible variables. Outside the hall's massive windows, the lights of Geneva sparkled against the night sky. Beyond the atmosphere, human ships continued their vigilant patrol of the borders. But between those ships and their consortium counterparts, communication channels had been reopened. Tentative exchanges of scientific data had resumed. Cultural transmissions flowed once more. 3 weeks of human intransigence had accomplished what 3 years of negotiation could not, a fundamental reassessment of a 9,000-year-old power structure. There's an old Earth saying, Admiral Chen reflected as he joined them at the window. Sometimes you have to be willing to walk away from the table to get what you really want. Ray smiled slightly. And sometimes you have to flip the table entirely. On screens throughout the command center, reports continued to stream in from across the galaxy. Species long subjugated by consortium protocols were finding their voices. Innovation centers were reporting breakthroughs as researchers explored paths previously deemed incompatible with consortium standards. Humanity hadn't just secured its own sovereignty, it had cracked open a door for the entire galaxy. all because they understood something the consortium had forgotten across its millennia of unchallenged rule. True strength isn't forcing others to be like you. True strength is remaining uniquely yourself in the face of pressure to conform. As the stars shimmered above Geneva, humanity prepared not just to rejoin the galactic community, but to transform it, one uncompromising principle at a time.